Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Sisters podcast. This is Gabrielle Celeste. Welcome.
It's an itchy nose, Nichole. I don't know what happened. As soon as you started talking, my nose started itching.
Allergies. That time of year.
That's right. I have the worst allergies. Hey guys, it's Nichole. Welcome. Welcome, new listeners. Welcome back, returning listeners. Thank you for being here, for sticking it out with us.
So today we were just chatting and Nichole was like, I've just realized how much I don't enjoy check-ins when I listen to other people's podcasts. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to keep it short and sweet. But to let you guys know just ahead of time, we did record this topic that we're going to speak to once before. And I'm trying to think back. Yeah, if it was during Mercury retrograde or right before. But I think it's really interesting because at time of recording, we're out of Mercury retrograde. And it's currently the last day of August. And I can't believe how quickly it's gone by. And I'm kind of in a daze. And I think that's my check-in where, I don't know, something with like space and time. But my sense of time is kind of off. And I just cannot believe it's the month of September.
I was talking to Kelly the other day and she's like, can you ask your sister what is happening? Because this has just been an off week. She's like, and I think what'd she say? I think Mercury retrograde went a little too far this time.
Yeah,
it was not a great week for her.
Yeah, it was the most intense Mercury retrograde of the year. So if you were feeling a little bit off, it was definitely the planets. And I don't know that it's going to get much better because we're walking right into eclipse season. So, yeah.
Lame.
Yep.
Yeah. But retrograde ended on Tuesday?
Yeah, it's over.
Well, I had it just shitty. No, it wasn't shitty. It was just really, really busy. It was full of appointments. It was full of PTA meetings. There was like one night I didn't get home till almost 9 o'clock at night. There was another night I didn't get home till, like 8 o'clock. It was just long days filled with like medical appointments in between for me and my little one.
Yeah.
And just a busy week that I'm glad is over. So that's it.
Yeah. When you had mentioned that you had worked 30 hours as PTA, like as a part of PTA, I was like, that is a part-time job.
I think it's probably now closer to 35.
Wild.
Yeah. But it's for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the children. That's what his principal told me one day because I was like, you are always here. His principal is very dedicated and she's really good. But she's there at like 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. And she's like, yeah. She's like, but it's for the kids. So
yeah.
She's very, very great at what she does. So I just keep reminding myself, it's for the kids. It's for the kids.
Yeah, educators in any field, whether like you're a principal or like you work in the administration side of it, they do not get paid enough.
No, and she was kind of joking that her husband told her with as much as she works, she's like a minimum wage employee because she just works so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's the kind of principal you want at your school. So
totally.
We're really lucky to have her. And it was so cute because I, have done PTA and have those relationships. She texted me the other day and sent me a picture of my little one in class doing like a math problem up at the board. So it's like, I love that I get, little check-ins from the principal just randomly.
Yeah.
Throughout his day. Yeah, totally. So anyway, PTA privilege. What are we talking about today? Again, you guys, the last episode, okay, we're like a lot chaotic and all over the place. It was so all over the place that I was like, no, like we can't even put this out. So that's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. It was, yeah. So anyway, we're going to try to tighten it up a little bit today.
Yeah. We are talking about doing the work and what it means to do the work. So what does it mean?
Oh, what does it mean?
Well, we'll get into it, but I was just reflecting back. Actually, the timeliness of this is just always so on point. But I was thinking back to my first reading, I know I've mentioned this quite a bit and I've talked about it, but I remember our reader being like, "You need to do the work." And I'm like, "What the fuck does it mean to do the work?" Right? Like thinking about that back retrospectively. And then yesterday I had a sitter. I don't think she's going to listen to this, but um, she was in her mid 20s and she's going into her Saturn return in about a year and a half, maybe two. Uh-huh. And it was her first type of experience like that. And I was like, oh gosh, she's about to go through it. Like she has no idea what's about to like come upon like this whole spiritual awakening because she's literally about to start doing the work. I could sense that for her. And so we're kind of just going to get into what that all entails. And we're going to answer hopefully the who, what, where, when, why aspect as to what doing the work really means.
I was thinking about him today, and I was like, maybe it's time to ask him to come on.
Stop. Do you think he would?
Yeah, he had mentioned before that he would be interested in going on podcasts and trying to get out there. So maybe.
Why do
I feel
I
like I
feel
should
so
text
like,
him.
yeah, I think you should. But also, why do I feel kind of like gatekeepy about that? I'm like,
I
he's my
know.
reader. Like, oh my God. I don't know.
But more people need to experience him.
Yeah. I had referred him out to one of my estheticians, and she's like, I wish I could just have him like in my bag or put him in my
All the
pocket
time.
yes, because I just felt like he was in my mind, and I was like, well, he probably was. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
Okay, so what does it mean to do the work?
I'm waiting for you, Nichole. I think we asked each other at the same time.
Okay, well, when he told you
Yeah.
that, when he said you need to do the work,
I didn't know what he meant.
okay, so now looking back, what did he mean? And don't say do the work.
I think now looking back, well, I interpreted it as like just doing something in regards to self help, self improvement. And for me, that started off as like, I don't know, going for a walk, like 20 minutes every single day, 5 days a week, right? And, or it could have been like writing down what you're grateful for, 10 things in a journal page at the end of your day, and just like expressing gratitude and just doing things to better yourself. And that over the course of time felt like compounded interest. And then once I had done enough of it, I realized like, oh, there's a spiritual component to it. And that kind of led to my whole spiritual awakening. And from then, it's been a rabbit hole that's really just gotten deeper.
Okay, but what about people that maybe want to do the work, but maybe they're not necessarily ready to be a spiritual Barbie or a spiritual Ken, but they still want to do the work? Like, you don't have to be into the woo, and you don't have to use crystals, and you don't have to do tarot cards or oracle cards. Like, you can still do the inner work, the personal development, the self-help without going down a spiritual path if you want to avoid a spiritual awakening. Because it's intense and maybe not for the faint of heart.
But can you avoid it once you
I think
do
people
can you?
maybe.
Because I didn't go into it with the intention of like playing with crystals and playing with cards and all of that. Kind of just happened.
Yeah. I don't know. But okay, so what it means. Yeah. So it means for me, doing the work is figuring out where are the areas that you need to improve upon in your life so that you can have healthier relationships, so that you can have a more like regulated nervous system, so that you don't respond to situations or people in a way that is like negative or in a way that is disrespectful, I think, to people or places. So I think that's part of it too, is just, okay, why does this bother me? Where did this come from? And how can I fix it? I think for me, that's kind of like the gist of it.
I think that's fair. Yeah. And also, it's just so you can have, I think, more fulfillment, at least for me. I remember I got to a point, actually, I remember a conversation you and I had had and this was actually right before you had gotten pregnant, and we were talking, and I was like, I have so much time on my hands. I feel like I could volunteer. I want to volunteer. I want to do something extra with my time. And for me, it started off as just kind of like adding things that would enhance my day, adding things that would allow me to grow. And I actually remember feeling like I needed that to be a better employee at work, to be a better leader, because at the time I had people reporting to me. And I would say in my early to mid 20s. And I felt like at the time my boss really projected onto me that it was going to be a little bit harder for me because of my age, which I don't know if was illegal to do now, like thinking back, but pretty much he said, like, just to watch your back. So for me, I really listened to some podcasts, read self development books, and that was also a big part of the gateway to the eventual spiritual awakening that had happened, alongside obviously like going through a negative experience with a guy that really hurt me and so forth. But I also felt like it was just something that I leaned into, like these self help books and the podcast, because I just wanted to be a better performer at work and in turn, better leader. At least that's how I attributed it to at the time.
I think for some people too, maybe doing the work can come in a different form. Like maybe for them, that's going to be going to therapy, which could be one of the methods. But I would say there's probably a lot of people in therapy that are maybe not going down a spiritual path because, right, therapy is well, yes and no. Therapy is kind of a more accepted, I think, depending on the culture, but right, it's like, okay, no, you go to therapy, not like you don't meditate or whatever, even though a lot of times in therapy we do recommend maybe people do meditate just to kind of get them to slow down and calm their minds. But I think maybe sometimes like something like therapy might be more of the go-to response or more acceptable versus going to a woman's retreat or a self-help seminar or doing readings or getting readings, I guess, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like the stigma associated with like going to a woman's retreat and like getting readings, because there really is judgment that you hear, or at least you feel, you cast upon someone when you hear that. At least I know I felt that
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm. I think they'd be so fun though. I don't think I've ever done one, like just a woman's one, but I feel like that'd be so fun.
I know, in Sedona, like we've been talking
Yeah,
about.
I would love to do that. Okay, so what are some of the ways that we do the work? Like what are some of the methods? What are some of the modalities? Like what are some of the actual practices that we do for
Hmm.
us that is like, oh, we're doing the work?
I feel like I have to separate this from a physical side and then from a mental slash emotional. And I'll start with the physical because I feel like that was kind of a gateway for the eventual like mental and emotional aspect of it. So I remember, and this is still things that I do to this day, but wait, so should I start with what I've used to do or how I got into it and what I do now? Are you starting with what you're doing now?
Whatever. Whatever feels best. Use your intuition.
Hmm. Okay, I'll go with what I do now because I still do it. And this is also how I started. So I really feel like taking care of my body just allows me to feel better overall. And I feel like I can show up as the best version of myself. So if I'm not moving my energy, usually first thing in the morning, like going for a walk or strength training for 20 minutes, I feel like my day is a little thrown off. And for me, I just feel like I can show up because I've already taken care of myself. And to do that maybe like 3 to 5 days a week over the course of time, I just feel like it's contributing to me showing up as the best version of myself so I can do that in other areas of my life, including, holding space for people as a business owner and being able to support others, like even my friends when they call. Um, so, anyways, it's just one of the ways that I take care of myself. And for me, there's a huge physical component because I am also reading energy quite often. And if you're not taking care of yourself on a physical sense, you're basically asking to get sick.
Yeah. What
Mhm.
else?
Lately, I have been really getting like just more structured and regimented with my evening routine. So I have a morning routine, but then also my
I love
evening
an
routine.
evening routine.
Yeah, and I don't know what's happened, but there was like a shift from my 20s to my 30s, more so in the last year, where I feel like I need to stretch more. So I've been stretching every day for 5 to 10 minutes before bed, before I do my evening prayer slash meditation, where I just ask a higher power to protect over everyone's house. And I also do a card pull for myself to reflect back on the end of the day. Um, and I also cleanse my energy with a crystal. It's literally like shaped like a knife. It's, oh my gosh, is it Celians?
The selenite,
Selenite, yeah, selenite. Celium's is it a chemical?
probably.
Anyways, so the selenite, I run
Did
it
you take
around.
chemistry in high school?
Yeah, it was like one of my worst subjects.
Same.
I
Of
did
course
not
it was one of your worst
I
subjects.
did not enjoy it. Who needs chemistry unless you're gonna go into like the science or the medical field? Anyways,
Nobody.
so I run that around my auric field and I do like a 15-step face care routine, which is completely separate from the wellness aspect of it. But I definitely feel like that's one of the ways that I can get connected and just like close down the energy for the day.
I think my esthetician, now your new esthetician,
She's the best.
she was trying to really like simplify the skincare routine. So if I were you, I would check in with her because you probably don't need that many steps. Because I don't feel like I have that many steps. And she was kind of like, oh, all you need is like this, and that. And I was like, but I like to be extra. So
Yeah, we do. Well, it's like, I don't know, face yoga is like, I'm so fascinated by face yoga accounts on Instagram. Side note, this is not relevant to the conversation, and plastic surgeons, the way that they run their business. I'm like, why is this so fascinating to me? Anyways,
oh, this isn't related, but if you guys are not following Dr. Lee 90210 on Instagram, you guys need to follow him because he's hilarious. And
mhm.
he has beef with Dr. Tony Yoon, and they are hilarious. They make reels like about each other, and they're actually together this weekend. They did like their first reel together. It's fucking hilarious. Go check out Dr. Lee 90210.
Is it like a genuine feud or like
No,
comical? Okay.
no, it's hilarious.
Okay.
You guys got to watch it. Okay. I want plastic surgery now just because of him. He's hilarious. Okay. So for me, I think I've kind of, with just like my change in routine and my change in life lately, my routine and like just how I do the work is very different. So I used to, and this was before kind of like my awakening, like I did have a really good morning routine where I was moving my energy all the time, right? I was at the gym at 5 a.m., like 5 days a week. Yeah, I think I was doing like Monday through Friday at one point so I could sleep in on the weekends.
Hmm.
And that really helped because I just felt better. I was like, oh, my day got started. I feel so productive. And now lately, I don't have that luxury anymore. It's not something I can do. So that's kind of messed me up as far as being able to move my energy. Now I have to find ways to do it like during my workday, which I don't really enjoy, you know?
Mm.
Like I probably need to start taking my walking shoes and like get a good walking hat and just walk around the school like 3 times a day because that's really the only time I have, unfortunately. I do notice a shift ever since I haven't been able to do that kind of like movement of energy.
Hmm.
So I do have a checklist for me that if I follow it, this is a good way for me to really feel like connected and tapped in. So some of that includes drinking enough water. So I have a goal
Mm.
of drinking like 100 ounces of water a day. So I drink 30 ounces. I try to drink 30 ounces in the morning before I leave the house for work. And then I try to drink 2 more 40 ounces throughout the day. So it's a little more than 100 ounces, but it's my goal. That really helps when I feel hydrated. So like physically. And then I do want to try to meditate 5 minutes a day. Some days I'm so busy And it's not that I don't have the time to do it, it's that I don't stop what I'm doing to give myself the 5 minutes. Because everybody has 5 minutes. Like, I don't care how fucking busy you are, everybody has 5 minutes, myself included. Sometimes I'm just so locked into what I'm doing that I have a hard time pulling back to do it. So I feel better when I'm able to sit down and do that. But again, I don't always like make the time for it. I don't always prioritize it, but I would love to be able to get back to doing that. My daily affirmations are really important to me. I love to start off a morning with positive affirmations. So that is something that for me is part of the work. What else? Oh, I've been wanting to try to do more tapping, but that's been, again, a challenge. So I think I need to be better about doing those things because for me, that is the work, is like sitting in stillness, meditating, tapping, my affirmations. That is really helpful for me. One of the biggest things for me has been journaling, and we kind of talked about this in that last chaotic episode.
Mm-hmm.
So let me back up. So prior to being like a spiritual girly and having my awakening, I was going to therapy. I've been in therapy off and on
Like 2019, right?
before we got married. Yeah, but then also like 2018, I think. 2018, 2017. And then prior to that, I had done therapy here and there, but usually after 2 or 3 sessions, they would kind of tell me that I didn't need to come back.
Oh, okay.
So I had tried, but it was like, oh, I think you're good. Like, you kind of know what's going on, which that doesn't help me, like, yeah, I can know what's going on, but like, help me, help me
Yeah.
fix it,
Yeah.
So lately I've noticed that journaling, which is also on my to-do list, as well as stretching at night, because yeah, as you're getting older, excuse me, as you're getting older, things start tightening up. And when I had my accident recently, when I got rear-ended and I had to start going to the chiropractor, they had me doing these stretches like on a disc. I'm like, oh, this just feels really good. I need to just do this at home. So I got a disc, and again, I just don't do it because I'm just always doing something else. It's not that I don't have the time. I just need to like set the time. But when I do stretch before bed, it's like, oh, this is amazing. But the journal prompts have been super helpful. And I feel like I've gotten more out of doing my own journal prompts than I have doing years of therapy. And that is so wild to me because I remember our reader telling me that I needed to journal. And I was like, for what? Like, I'm just going to sit there and like write about my day. That's dumb. Like, I had a diary when I was a child. Like, I don't need to do this. But he was really adamant that journaling was going to be really big for me and really helpful. So I did start off with this very simple journal, Soul Therapy, which I still think is a great journal. I think it's a really good way to get people used to the practice of journaling. And then it gives you daily prompts so that you can answer those prompts, and they don't all go super deep. So that's why I think it's really helpful for beginners who are maybe not ready to go super, super deep, but still want to do a little bit of the work. So I was doing that, but I think I've kind of like outgrown it. I haven't touched it in months. It's still there. But now I just kind of check in. I reflect on my day. Okay, what happened today? What was good? What was not so good? And where did this come from? Why was I upset about that? And half the times I don't know. So I'm just sitting there writing. And there's something about writing. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but for me, typing doesn't have the same effect as taking like a pen to paper. So I love to sit there and write and just let whatever is coming to mind come out on the paper. And I've had so many crazy aha moments just journaling. And it doesn't even have to always be a very deep question. Sometimes it's just, oh, what this happened today, and what do I think that was about? So I think for me, that has been so impactful, and I really underestimated the effectiveness of journaling or a good journal prompt. So those are kind of my, that's like my process. Those are some of the things that I like to do and that really help me.
Had a couple thoughts come through as you were saying that, but I'll share them for off camera and recording. Okay, so those are some of the things that we've done at the beginning and still do now. What would you
I used to do a
say?
lot of carpools. I don't do those very often anymore, which I kind of feel like I want to and need to. Oh, and
Mhm,
just part of the ritual,
mhm.
and I know you do this all the time, is lighting candles.
All the time,
Mm-hmm.
every day. I have candles going in the altar. I have, apparently it's really good feng shui, Chikara check us, to have like a little altar set up in your bathroom. So I have candles literally going in the restroom like just all day. I have them lit up here in my office space. I love candle magic and fire magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Um, well, I'm pretty sure they're downloads for you, so I'll save them for off of recording. But what do you think? We've talked a little bit about the benefits. What would you say are the benefits and the cons of doing the work that maybe are expected or unexpected?
Pros and cons. Pros, you get to go a little bit deeper as to maybe why something is upsetting you. You get to understand maybe, I think you start to see what patterns you repeat. And that in itself is huge to even just recognize, oh, I keep doing this. Why does that keep happening? And then the next step is, well, why and where did this come from? So I think having a really good understanding of circumstances, whether they were caused by you or whether they were kind of like dumped on you by parents and guardians and school people, right? All the people in our lives. I think that's a really good part of it. I think improving relationships with people, I think improving communication um, with anybody in your life, right? Whether it's a coworker, a boss, a baby daddy, a husband, a sibling, parents, anybody is really just improving that. And, oh, okay, how can I make sure that that bad thing that happened before doesn't happen again? How can I respond differently?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I so upset? Do I need to take 20 minutes before I respond to this message? Like little things like that, right? It doesn't always have to be something so big and grand. It can be something as simple as, okay, you know what? I'm upset right now. Let me not respond for a little bit. Let me come
Mm-hmm.
back to this later.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the pros. I think the
Mm-hmm.
cons are it's hard. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of, gosh, I don't know. I just think like blood, sweat, and tears. It's just so much that can come up, and you're basically like holding an ugly, old, dirty mirror in front of you and trying to work through that. I think that isn't always fun. I think sometimes it brings up, for some people, maybe it brings up past trauma, which is why a lot of times it should be done with the help of a mental health professional if the person does have mental health issues. Not everybody has mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sometimes has periods where maybe their mental health is not the best, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they struggle with mental health issues. Like there's a difference, right? So maybe somebody who sometimes feels a little bit down, like everybody feels down, everybody feels sad. Not everybody experiences chronic depression or bipolar disorder or uh, generalized anxiety or OCD or anything like that. So sometimes this work might bring up those issues. And that's when you need a therapist. That's when you need somebody to help you. A coach, I think, is really helpful, but sometimes like a coach isn't trained and able to help address trauma in that way and isn't trained to even diagnose something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think there's like the pros and cons that way with the trauma that might be brought up and who you're going to address it with.
Something when you were speaking about like the blood, sweat, and tears that is required to go into it, and that is a result of doing the work, as one would say. I don't know if it's necessarily a con, but I do think that it's an unexpected outcome as you're going through this healing and doing the inner work. And those are tests and triggers, and unexpected ones at that. So I do think that as you're reflecting and looking inwardly and you're doing things extrinsically, so like, you're doing whatever it is in your daily routine and you're doing the inner work like meditation, carpools, journaling, I do think a result of that is that there's certain people that are going to bother you to reflect back to you the growth that you have or haven't done. And that's all part of like those triggers are part of the tests to see if like you have indeed overcome, maybe things that used to upset you or annoy you or anger you before, and you move on to the next thing. And then like basically that's just where like the layers pretty much uncover themselves, much like an onion.
I think too, I thought you were going to say this because it kind of came to me after I was done, but I think sometimes the loss of relationships can be a con. It feels like
Mm,
a con in the moment, and maybe sometimes it is, but maybe sometimes it's actually for the best.
yeah.
But, people who want to improve themselves often have to let go of people that don't want to improve themselves.
Yeah.
And it can be a lifelong friend, it could be a family member, it could be anybody, it could be a partner, right? And if they're not wanting to better themselves also, then sometimes it kind of feels like you're being held back.
Hmm.
And so sometimes relationships don't make it through this
Yeah.
period.
That's very true. And I'm thinking back to this one author that our reader recommended I read her book, and she was just getting notoriety at the time when I had started doing this work. I mean, she's a public figure, so I feel like I can say this, but her name's Rachel Hollis, and she wrote the book Girl Wash Your Face. And in that book, I'm pretty sure she speaks to an RIP, now her ex husband, he's passed from this world. But in the book, she had mentioned, she's like, if you don't, start catching up or doing the work yourself, like, we're not going to make it. And eventually they did indeed divorce. But I think that is a testament to just like the growth that happens on your part by doing the work. That can be a result.
Yeah, because think about it. If you're growing and you're expanding, you might start here at the same level and you're going to maybe move up a notch and another
Hmm.
notch. And if the person isn't doing the work, well, now you guys are just getting further and further apart. And that's hard. It's hard to be around somebody who you don't really have as much in common with anymore and maybe don't have the same vision or goal for life in general. And again, whether it's a partner or even just a friend, if you have a friend that just wants to maybe sit around and, I don't know, like do meth all day, and you're like, I want to go to the gym and I want to have a six-figure career. Well, are you going to want to hang out with that person? Well, probably not. So, you know, and maybe you too were at one point sitting around smoking meth all day, but you're like, you know what, this is kind of like boring. This is getting kind of pricey. So at that point, it's like, okay, time to move on.
Okay.
So
So
I
that,
think,
go ahead.
no, I just think that's like one of the big, I don't even know if I want to call it a con, but I just think maybe an effect of doing the
Hmm.
work, whether it's good or bad, because some people might see it as a good thing.
Hmm.
Some people might see it as a bad thing,
Okay.
losing the people.
So that leads me to the next point. You just touched on timing. So, two questions. What do you think that there's ever a bad time to start to do the work? And then, if indeed you do grow apart from one in a relationship, at which point is it time? And this could be a little off topic, but I'm just curious as to what your response would be. Like, how would you navigate those waters if said person in the relationship, the other person, weren't to grow with you?
I think maybe a bad time to do the work is on the last day of your life because you're not going to get very far, unfortunately. So I would say that would probably not be good.
Uh-huh.
But no, I mean, I don't think you have to start in your 20s or in your teens or in your 50s. Like, I think as long as you're ready and willing to put in the work
Mm-hmm.
to do the work, I think any time is a good time. And then what was the second question? How do you?
So like you say you are, I'm thinking of Rachel Hollis, like eventually her ex-husband did catch up and he got on board and he ended up leaving his job at Disney. But you were speaking to the gap where it's like, okay, here's this partner and then there's like other friends or like partners within like a union. Like, and there's this gap that's being essentially created by one doing the work and not the other, at which point is it time to call it in either a friendship or a relationship? Because I think that's also an impediment to your own growth if you don't.
I think that's a personal choice and a personal preference. I don't think there is like a set time, like, oh, you have to give them 30 days, or if you've been doing it for a year and they're not. I think it's really just all about you and what your boundaries are and your limits. So I think that's going to vary from person to person. I think it's going to vary depending on the relationship, right? If it's maybe a coworker, but again, you're not really seeing not even eye to eye, but it's not like a close relationship, but just someone that you maybe don't want to associate with anymore. I think that's going to be really different than maybe like your spouse or a parent or something. So I think it just kind of it depends, and it's going to vary like across the board.
Yeah.
From
But
person to person.
These are all questions that come up as a result of doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sometimes better just to not know what you're getting yourself into, at least in my opinion.
Just go in blindly. You'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
Well, we didn't have an idea of what we were about to do, and look at us. Okay, I will say, this is part of the payoff. Much like we talked about in the Dark Night of the Soul, like going through it, working on yourself, as challenging as it might be in certain seasons, I do think that there's always a payoff. And I do think over the course of time, that leads to fulfillment and you can become a happier person.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? Is to be happier, to be healthier, to be more comfortable in yourself. I was talking to Brett today. Hi, Brett.
Hey.
And we have such good conversations. We had like a 2-hour long conversation.
Oh my gosh.
And he says hi. And we were talking about, he was just asking, oh, are you doing readings or just, whatever. And I told him how I have a really big block.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I would be aware of my block if I wasn't doing the work. And if I wasn't sitting with what's happening and why am I not doing this, right? If this was maybe 3 years ago, I don't think I would really see the block. And so we were just talking
or even
about,
know it was there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, totally.
It was
Yeah.
like a thing.
So,
yeah.
Right. I wouldn't even know it was a thing. Oh, I just don't have time. Well, that's not an excuse. Like there's no such thing as like not having time. Like you make time for what's important. So we were talking about it and just like I have this big block and it's like I know what my block is. I don't know where it comes from. So I think that's another key piece. So like for me, I'm somebody who needs to understand something from A to Z. I've talked about that before. I need to know the whole process. Like don't just tell me that this is what it is. Well, I need to know why so that I can conceptualize it and see the whole picture. So for me, it's like, because he was saying something like, no, you just need to like let go of the fear and throw that in the trash. And I was like, right, but I need to know where it comes from first so that I can get rid of it. So that I already know it's irrational, but I need to see where the irrational thoughts and stuff started first so that I can have a better understanding and be like, oh, this has nothing to do with me. This is how I'm going to get rid of it. But I don't think I would have that insight even as a therapist. I can do that for someone else. I can't do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But now, since I've been doing more of it for myself,
Mm-hmm.
more self-reflection, it's like, oh, this is what's happening, and this is why I'm not doing this other thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that it's for you based off of the type of work that you'll be doing within your business. And this I think can be said for any healer. It's like you're going to teach from a place that you're healing from or have healed from. So I also think that adds another layer of importance for you to understand what that block is, because I do think that more times than not, we attract those that we can help support through our own experiences in our healing journey.
Mm-hmm. I think so. So, what do you think, or if someone was like, okay, I'm ready to, because we hear a lot of times, I'm on a healing journey,
Mm-hmm.
and that might look different for everybody,
It's not
right? So,
linear, that's for sure.
someone who's on a healing journey might be on a healing journey and really leaning into therapy. Someone might be on a healing journey and might be really leaning into church.
Mm-hmm.
Someone might be on a healing journey and might be leaning into physical activity, right? It can look so different for so many people. So if someone's like, okay, I'm ready to heal, I'm ready to make these changes,
Mm-hmm.
where do you think they could start? Like, how would you navigate somebody through that?
I feel like this comes up in my readings often. It's like, okay, well, how? Like, we know what the block is, we know where it came from. Usually we can get there in about an hour, depending on like how they come into the session and how clear they are about like the questions that they have. But I oftentimes recommend just sticking to something for a set period of time and then reevaluating. It's kind of like a workout program, a training program, right? Like you're going to do something for 6 to 12 weeks. After that, you're going to take a break, reevaluate, and then like increase or change it up, whatever, like if it's weights or if it's the amount of reps that you're doing and so forth. So I would say creating some type of daily routine that you can commit to, that's feasible, that you can, and then you can build upon and go from there. And that can look like getting a card deck that calls to you and pulling a card and doing 5 minutes of meditation. If that doesn't work for you, if you want like a physical component, I feel like the physical really supports men, where females like are more in tune on an emotional level. And that's not to say that's applicable for everyone, but for men, going for a walk for 30 minutes of your day, like just making that happen, committing to 75 hard, like that is so ingrained it works for men. It's like, what is it? Something crazy, like reading 10 pages every single day for 75 days. You do a workout outside and then another workout inside. You eat like whole foods, and that's an extreme example, but just committing to something, I feel like can really support and be a catalyst for change. And I think from there, it just kind of builds upon itself.
Okay, so here's something that I was thinking right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say if anybody is thinking right now of, okay, I want to work on something, I want to improve, I want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Let your intuition guide you.
Oh, I love
Maybe sit there and say, okay, what do I want to focus on?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to focus on, sorry, let me back up. Let your intuition guide you. First, get in touch with your intuition. Okay. So sit there with yourself and say things like, for example, my name is Nichole and I'm 41 years old. Those are things that are true. So I'm going to see how that feels in my body when I say that. And then I might say something like, my name is Richard and I'm 21 years old. Even saying that right now, I feel it in my chest. Like, no, I'm not. So kind of like doing that practice of like, okay, this is like a full body yes, and this is a full body no. So just kind of get comfortable with your body cues in that way. And then say, okay, I want to start exercising. Do I want to, I want to exercise for 30 minutes a day? I want to exercise for 60 minutes a day. And which one of those feels better in your body? Or I want to run for 30 minutes. I want to lift weights for 30 minutes. Which one feels better? I want to uh, cut out coffee, or I want to drink tea, or I want to drink coffee. Little things like that, and just see what your body tells you to kind of guide you in the direction to take, and take them in baby steps. Don't try to add 5 things or 5 different changes. Start with one. So maybe that one is going to be, okay, I need more physical activity. Great. Well, which physical activity do you want? Do you want walks? Do you want weights? Do you want running? Do you want swimming? And really try to narrow it down that way. Try that for a week and see how that fits. And then maybe, okay, I want to read more. Do I want to read 10 minutes a day? Do I want to read 20 minutes a day? And see where that takes you. And don't also beat yourself up if you say, well, I didn't get my 20 minutes a day. Well, that's okay. We don't always get everything the way we want to perfectly, and that's fine. It's fine to skip a day of reading. It's fine to skip a workout, right? You need to give your body a rest. You can give your brain a rest too. But try just getting in touch with like what your intuition tells you, like where you should start.
I actually think that's such a feminine approach as well, which I really love. So I love that example. Just kind of like listening to your body and what does or doesn't feel good for you. Yeah. So
that's all I got.
This episode was a lot more structured than the last time.
It was a fucking hot mess last time, I told you. I was like, no, we're not doing it.
I trust her. I'm like, okay, if she's saying that, then it must have been a hot mess express, that's for sure. But you know what? Okay, so I'm doing the card pull today, and I think this deck is so perfect for the conversation. It's very much like a light and shadow type of deck, because it's actually a tarot deck. I don't know if I've used it on the show just yet. I'm still working with it, so I'm not as familiar with it as I am on my other decks, but it's called the Light Seer's Tarot. And
you use that all the time. Not on the show, but I think in general, right?
I don't think I've used it on the show, but yeah.
Not on the show, but like for your card pulls?
Yeah, for the card pulls, I really like it because it's a different take on the tarot, and it also explains reversals in the deck, and it's really just practical, so I really love it. And it's a perfect deck if you're doing Z work. So
I just thought of another way someone could do the work, or not even do it, but like if they're wanting to start on the journey of doing the work, you can get my audio bundle that has short meditations for the morning, short meditations for bedtime, positive affirmations, subliminal audios for the positive affirmations, and journal prompts.
And also,
shameless plug.
I mean, that's why we have a podcast, right? We have to utilize it more for our benefit so we can leave our full-time jobs, people. But anyways, the link for this tarot deck will be in the show notes, so I really encourage you to take it out, and the artistry is just beautiful. Ooh, okay. The 7 of Pentacles reversed. So actually I'm going to pull a little pamphlet because I'm not as familiar with the deck as I just shared. So stand there.
Well, you don't use that one for your... Oh, no, you use the, like, ancestor ones, or the
goddesses and guardians.
That's really the one I was thinking it was. Yeah.
So the 7 of Pentacles reversed okay, well, it is giving up too early, impatience, losing faith, not following through, being frustrated with rewards and lack thereof.
Fuck this card deck. I feel like it's attacking me.
Well,
I feel personally attacked.
The message, my dear, it says, as I give thanks for what I am about to harvest, I know that my life is headed in the right direction. So, yeah, I think that was perfect.
I feel personally attacked. We're not going to put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, so anyways, it's one of my new favorite decks for sure. And it's just blue. Like the box is blue. It's one of my favorite colors.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, let's get out there and do the work so that we can raise better humans and just be better people and raise the vibration of the planet, as they
I
say.
was just going to say it.
Of course you were. Lame. Well, all right. See you
Until next
guys.
time. Bye.
Bye.